All right, my number 10. This one's kind of funny because this was like a meme thing a couple years ago. But I've in recent years found myself to be at times a bit of a curmudgeon. So I'm going to put Squidward tentacles here. All right. And listen, this relatable character thing is going to go all over the place for me. I'm an all over the place kind of person. I have good days, I have bad days, and Squidward is the epitome of a bad day type character. He's serious, sometimes a little too serious. He lives next to SpongeBob and Patrick. They drive him nuts. I understand that. I've had bad neighbors in my life, whether it's in an apartment or somewhere I'm living. So I can understand the misery that comes with it. All right. There's a lot of I can be easily annoyed by stupidity, which is something that he is, not just as a neighbor, but with the people that come in for, at the Krusty Krab. I was watching a compilation video on YouTube, and that's where I thought of this one from. We've all worked, I think, bad retail jobs or customer service jobs, and people ask stupid questions, or people, and obviously that's it's just the nature of the job, but people they just pick at every single nerve that we have, and good Lord, it's Squidward is very, very relatable. But also, one important part I want to talk about with Squidward is that not only is he bitter, a curmudgeon, easily annoyed, easily irritable, deep down he's actually a very caring person. If I remember correctly, there's the Krusty Krab pizza episode where they finally made it to the customer's house, and they forgot his Dr. Kelp, I think it was called. And the guy gets mad at SpongeBob, and Squidward goes back at the door and handles business. All right, and that's the loving component of Squidward. There's the one where he thought that SpongeBob ate the bomb pie, and he was sad. And as it got closer to the sun setting, he got even more sad and emotionally attached. That's me in a nutshell. All right. There are a lot of people in my life who annoy the living hell out of me. All right. They are awful to be around. They are annoying. They just get under my skin, make my blood boil. But I also don't want to see bad things happen to them. All right. And that's just who I am. So, as kids, we associate with the fun-loving nature of the SpongeBobs and the Patricks. A lot of people, as they get older, as they've experienced the world in so many different ways, they've seen some things. The world has hurt them. They become Squidwards, and I know a lot of Squidwards personally, and I have definitely become one. So Squidward Tentacles is my number 10. Number 9. I'm going to go with Bilbo Baggins here. All right, the one of everybody's favorite Shire folk, hobbits. I came into the Lord of the Rings series, trilogy, through the movies first, and Bilbo was not like a big character in my opinion. You had to me the big characters were the Fellowship basically, but as far as hobbits go, Frodo, Sam, Merry, Pippin. But the Hobbit movie really put me on to Bilbo, Martin Freeman. All right, the way that he portrayed a younger version of Bilbo was nice. There was a lot of lessons to be had in watching how Bilbo, operated. I loved his kind of protecting the peace kind of approach, especially when Gandalf first came to the Shire, and knocked on his door and whatnot. Damn it, I said whatnot again. I'm trying really hard not to say it anymore. His how anxiety filled he was in a crowd. All right, when all the dwarves were meeting at his home at the beginning of it. But I also liked the empathy factor that he had. All right, even though he loved his peace, he wanted to protect his peace. He was happy doing the bare minimum. I loved the line he said to Thorin at the end of the first movie about having a home and realizing that, hey, he wanted the dwarves to have a home as well. There was something really charming in that. Another element that I've really enjoyed about Bilbo, yes, he likes relaxation, loves comfort, but as soon as he tasted adventure, he couldn't get enough of it. And that's been my life post-high school, pretty much. I didn't get invited out much to things, all right? I certainly didn't want to be around. I didn't drink in high school. I didn't want to be around parties or some of the people. But, man, after that, once I got into college and I started to taste some of that freedom, that I had that adventurous spirit, especially when I got my car too. It just kept growing, that desire, that drive to go and see things, go experience things. It never left me, and that was what Bilbo was before The Hobbit started. He was happy living in the Shire. He was happy reading his books, drinking his tea, smoking his weed. And after he tasted that adventure, it bothered him for years and years and years. And that's where we come to at the Fellowship of the Ring, when he realizes he needs to go on an adventure again. So there's that spirit of adventure that I admire about Bilbo. But there's a lot to love about the character. The hobbits are very admirable creatures. But Bilbo Baggins is my number 9. Number 8. I'm going to go with Woody from Toy Story. I'm going to go with Woody from Toy Story here. I talked about my affinity for the toy, the stuffed animal, whatever you want to call it, the stuffed action figure that I received in Disney World back in 1997 when I was 5 years old. But I was very sympathetic for Woody, especially in the first Toy Story movie. His loyalty to Andy in the films, like he was the favorite. Everybody kind of viewed him as kind of a little bit self-centered and such. But I could relate to his feeling when he was starting to get replaced. We've all been around people who have replaced us with someone else. It drives me nuts, even to this day. I mean, I'm getting a little bit better at accepting when people don't want to necessarily spend time with me anymore. I understand it. People grow apart all the time. But when you watch, from the birthday party and his interactions with Buzz, as soon as he comes along, the friction between the two, and then slowly but surely, Woody's being all of a sudden the room is not Woody themed anymore. Woody's being put in the toy box, and Andy's getting all the Buzz Lightyear merchandise, the poster, the bed sheets, and a lot of the other aspects. And that gut-wrenching feeling that he had being replaced. Again, I've been replaced several times before. It sucks, and we do things that are not the best. We don't operate in the best light when we feel like we're being replaced. All right, we act out, and it hurts. It stings. I've been dumped before in relationships. I've been cheated on and so much more, and pushed aside for other people. And there is no worse feeling than realizing that you are replaceable to somebody, that you are disposable to somebody. So I empathize with Woody. I empathized with him and the way he carried himself in that first film, and he grew considerably. He grew to become a good friend throughout. By the end of the movie, him and Buzz were super tight, and then so on and so forth, and eventually became a good kind of leader character amongst all of the toys. So Woody is my number 8 because I could relate to the feeling of being replaced. And the way he carried himself was understandable. As somebody who has been replaced countless number of times and have acted out upon realizing it, yeah, Woody's relatable. So that's my number 8. Number 7. I've only known about this character for 11 years, but as soon as I seen him debut on the big screen, there was something about him that was just so refreshing, relatable, and special. And I'm talking about Peter Quill, a.k.a. Star-Lord from the Guardians of the Galaxy franchise. I don't know if I would love this character as much. I mean, I probably would, but Chris Pratt was like the perfect casting for him, right? Robert Downey Jr., perfect Iron Man. A lot of people say Michael Keaton, and it took some time, but Michael Keaton's like the ideal Batman. There's a lot of those perfect castings in comic book films. And I don't think Chris Pratt as Star-Lord gets talked enough nearly as much. It did at one point, but the way he discussed this character, like he portrayed this character, told Star-Lord's story, was so fun and relatable. He was a character that never took himself too seriously, or he did, and that's kind of the humor in it. But he was goofy. He was flawed. There was a lot of mistakes made, silly things said. He had a bit of an ego. He was basically like just awkward. He was awkward. He was basically like me in high school, in a sense. And this is where I find it actually, I would dare so say, a little bit me today. All right, and this is why I love that character so much, is because how not perfect he is. Like, he was this solo act, and he, like, by himself, and by the end of the first film, he finds himself as a leader of a team, the Guardians of the Galaxy, leading a bunch of other people kind of like him, aside from Gamora. Gamora, very serious, but everybody had their flaws and awkwardness. But I love Star-Lord for that reason. I get really excited when I see the mask or I see anything he does. I was really disappointed with Thor: Love and Thunder. I talked about that because I thought that we were going to get more Guardians of the Galaxy, then they pushed him away. Just goofy, just flawed. One of the most flawed mainstream superhero characters of all time. Because he'd always do something you're like, oh, God. Right? Watching Infinity War and watching him screw up when they had Thanos down and they were going to take the gauntlet, and watching him screw up. All right, drove everybody nuts. It drove everybody nuts. We have done that. Whether we like to admit it or not, we have all done something like, not to that extent, not fighting a giant space alien, but we have all screwed something up that was going well in our lives. But there's still is that even a word? Lovability? There's still something to love and admire with Star-Lord, despite his many flaws, and that's why I love him. That's why he's my number 7. Number 6. I'm wearing a shirt from him. Another wonderful TikTok shop purchase. RPD. You can kind of see it. Leon Kennedy. Leon Scott Kennedy from the Resident Evil series. What a do-gooder. What a good person. And I really liked his portrayal in the Resident Evil 2 remake a lot. It gave him a much better opportunity to have some more depth, to like really flesh out his character and what he stands for. While he's trying to survive, and we have seen that survival, whether it be movies or real life examples, that survival can turn people it can turn people to anarchy. All right, doing whatever it takes. In the Resident Evil games, both 2 and 4, calm, cool, and collected the entire time, and still had a sense of duty and morality. And I really loved him, or love the Leon character for that. Especially the RE2 remake game, because it's his first day on the job. He comes in and there's all sorts of shady people coming across his way, and his people who have been infected with the T virus, and he stays true to his duty and wants to do the right thing. He wants to save lives still while trying to save his own. Literally the perfect example of what a cop should be. And Leon I'm more attached to Leon than any other character in the entire Resident Evil franchise for that reason, is because he never panics. He never panics. He's protect and serve first and foremost, and survive. And a lot to be admired with that. So number 6, Leon S. Kennedy. My number 5 is it's Peter Parker here. I'm gonna put good old Spider-Man on my list. There's a certain charm about Peter Parker that I think a lot of people can admire. What he's overcome, the way he's written, is somebody who did not have a great high school experience, right? He was bullied, picked on, and so much more, and eventually became something great through the luck of being bitten by a radioactive spider. But, the relatability is that picked on part. I didn't have a great social life in high school. Yeah, I had a great core group of friends, but outside of that, whether it was the dating pool, trying to find a girlfriend, which was a big concern of mine, trying to find acceptance into just by people who found me annoying and other traits, for a variety of other reasons. I can relate to that. All right, I can certainly relate to that. Spider-Man's, or more so Peter Parker, because there's a variety of different Spider-Men now, but Peter Parker's whole philosophy on being a superhero stems from his experiences in school, yes, and also from the lines of his Uncle Ben. With great power comes great responsibility. Peter knew what it was like to be the little guy, to be the bullied person, and that's why he was your friendly neighborhood Spider-Man. He wanted to protect the little person, all right? The normal folk who just want to carry on and go about their lives. And he had this sense of duty to be good and do good, despite everything, despite all the negativity that came his way. We've seen how bullying has affected people in the real world. All right, a lot of dangerous situations have stemmed from people who have gotten bullied, tragic situations at that. And Spider-Man is a model to do good, to do better, to remember where you came from, remember what you dealt with, remember what you experienced on your comeuppance. All right, even when he became Spider-Man, he still struggled, right? The financial stuff, depending on the movies, rent, where's your rent money? He always kind of struggled in that regard. So he's pretty grounded in that respect, but he never lost his way. I'm somebody who's lost my way. So when I look at Peter Parker, I find inspiration to kind of find myself again. Stop letting this world that is brutal, merciless sometimes, tell me who I am and point me in the wrong directions. It's to stay true to my morals and continue to be a good person. Another element I love of Peter Parker too is the photography. I think my mother played a big part in my desire to have a camera and take pictures of stuff and things. But from a fictional level, I mean, Peter Parker's the main one. I don't know if there's too many other characters, especially mainstream characters that are big in the photography aspect. But as far as I know, yeah, Peter Parker is my number 5 for relatability. My number 4, I get picked on a lot for this one. People Yeah. Cyclops. Scott Summers is my number 4. There was something so appealing about Cyclops when I first came to know of him, which was through the X-Men animated series. First of all, he had a cool costume, so shout out Jim Lee for that. Secondly, he was the leader. He was the de facto leader. And people look up to leaders. As a kid, I wanted to be looked up to. I wanted people to look on me, to make decisions, to make choices. Like, I have this like weird control. Like, it's something I've worked on. Like, I've had to work on over the years. But I've always had this desire for control all the time. And that's what leaders do. And that's what Cyclops did. Good leaders have to make tough decisions. All right. Sometimes they're not the most popular decisions. Actually, more often than not, they're not the most popular decisions. But that's what Cyclops' job was. I've been a leader in some situations. I was a captain for sports. I've led, my previous podcast studio, and now I get to lead through fatherhood, making tough decisions that that aren't necessarily easy. But that's what great leaders do. And it's admirable. It's an admirable trait that Cyclops has, that he's, been portrayed as having, is having to make those tough decisions, having the mental and emotional strength to make those decisions and stand by them. All right. X-Men animated series, as I've already said, was my first introduction to him. And one of the earlier episodes that I recall is an attack on a Sentinel base, and Cyclops had he wanted the team to evacuate, but it ended up Beast and Morph ended up being captured, or something along those lines. And I remember like Wolverine punched him in the stomach after they came back because he was mad at the decision he made, but it protected the rest of the team. It protected and saved the rest of the team in the long run. So as tough a decision as it was best for the team, and that's what a leader's in place to do. So I've always admired Cyclops for that. He's been portrayed pretty well as a leader. There's been a couple weird runs of his where he's been a villain at some points, but I like the way that Cyclops has been written as a leader. And as a leader, I could use a lot more work in, no doubt. So I draw inspiration from that, and he's cool. He's cool. I also, I know what it's like to not be liked too. And Cyclops is definitely one of those characters who handles it pretty smoothly and pretty well. So, love Cyclops. Moving on to my number 3. All right, now we're going to start getting into some of the anti-heroes. Actually, I only have 2 anti-heroes, really. Star-Lord, kind of, just a little bit, but I'm going to go this route. So, Eddie Brock, Venom. Venom is on this list. He is very relatable. Because he was portrayed as a villain in the Spider-Man comics for a mistake. Well, not even a mistake, but just something that was unintentionally directed his way. If I remember correctly, Spider-Man exposed the real identity of a criminal. I'm trying to think of the name for him. I can't remember, but there was somebody who had a fake, pretended to be this villain and did an interview with Eddie Brock, and it destroyed it. When Spider-Man exposed this person, was it the Sin Eater? I think that's what they call themselves. But when Spider-Man exposed this person for who they actually were, Eddie Brock's journalism career was ruined, and his reputation was tarnished. And Spider-Man, who was in the process of doing the right thing, inadvertently ruined Eddie Brock's life. He fell into deep depression, lost his job, and got a second chance through the Venom character. But it's a neat perspective when you look at it that way. Because if you look at first glance, the earlier Venom books, it's a black and white, no gray area. He's portrayed as a villain. But as you get older and you start to see the world for what it is, and also some of the later portrayals of Venom, there's a layer of sympathy towards him. There's a layer of empathy towards Eddie Brock, towards the Venom character. All right. I've, looking back, I've been treated poorly by a lot of people who I still actually consider deep down good people. It happens. It happens. And this is what I was talking about earlier on the episode. I think I was. I did a lot of retakes, but how we are all one decision away from being labeled or actually being bad. All right. I feel like everybody is born inherently good. All right. I feel like everybody is born inherently good, but the circumstances that we experience, the challenges that we experience, can shape us in whatever way. And when it comes to Eddie Brock, his dilemma with Spider-Man and the Sin Eater, again, I'm pretty sure that's who it was, set him down a path. He was labeled a psychopathic murderer and so much more. Here, this good guy who thought he had this exclusive scoop and this incredible interview for his journalism career, and had the rug pulled out underneath him. All right, no malice intended with the beginning of it, but it led him down a dark path. So it's a reminder that, one, that everybody's going through something. Okay, people who are bad have gone through a lot of bad stuff, and there's a level of empathy to have towards most of them, and like also there's two sides to every story. I think that's an important thing to look at as well. With it, sometimes when it comes to a fight, a disagreement between two people, we gravitate towards one person's side. All right, and then the other person has perspective may change your perspective on who you had first, if that makes sense. I'm trying to think of, here we go, the Johnny Depp Amber Heard thing. All right, everybody went guilty towards Johnny Depp right out of the gate, no questions asked. And then as facts came out, the opinion switched a little bit. I think that's a pretty decent comparison towards them. And obviously Johnny Depp is very flawed as well, but this is what, there's two sides to every single story. So to every feud, to every rivalry. So keep that in mind when dealing with other people as well. My number 2, I'm going to go with, from my favorite Final Fantasy game. His name is Squall Leonhart. He's the main character in the game. It's cool to watch him change and grow from start to finish. He starts very in a shell, which is something that I do often. It takes me a lot to come out of my shell. It takes a very high degree of comfortability for me to become emotionally available. And it took almost the whole first disc and a little bit beyond for him to become the leader he was apparently predestined to be. But he would say funny things like, hey, I dreamt I was a moron. And I'm not going to go into the reason, the context behind all of these things, but he'd say stuff like that. And I actually think a little bit like my personality now I've kind of taken from him. Or he liked to say whatever a lot, at least in his mind. A lot of the dialogue boxes are clearly stemming from his thoughts and not things that he's actually vocalizing. But eventually he's made to be the leader of a team, and he starts to come out of his shell a little bit. All right, he starts making tough decisions, but he also has to learn to start trusting his comrades. And then he falls in love, and it causes him to come out of his shell even a little bit more. And by the time Disc 2 is over with, and we start off Disc 3, he's a completely different person from where the story started. Squall, he's kind of a do-nothing at the beginning. All right, just kind of a bumbling, self-centered character who has been hurt in the past, and this is why he puts walls up. There's a lot of good quotes from Squall throughout the game, all right, that really make you think. But again, by the end of the game, he's a well-respected leader. He becomes the headmaster of their military academy, and he goes on to do great things. He defeats the sorceress Ultimacia at the end of the game, which is again, that's the magic of storytelling and the magic of a great, well-written character. So Squall Leonhart, number 2. And my number 1, Anakin Skywalker / Darth Vader. I think I might have touched on this in the lightsaber duels list, but I wanted to go here. Anakin Skywalker in the story, in the story of Star Wars, was built up. He was a child prodigy. He came into the Jedi Order late. He had this high midi-chlorian count, and he was told that he was the chosen one. He had heard that through years and years and years. All right, the Jedi Council, even though they were hesitant to really take him under. Obi-Wan, right? You are the chosen one. This is the prophecy. So I think any kid that comes into an expectation like that, one, they're going to get big-headed. All right, if you are told you are the chosen one, your ego is going to be a little bit big, especially this is what the issue was of him coming into Jedi training so late. So his head is filled up with a bunch of stuff and things. And then, after being built up, after being fluffed up, his head filled with nonsense in some instances, people didn't like him. Mace Windu notoriously hated him. And he had a lot of other issues. He was never satisfied. He could never, like, again, you go from being hyped up and told you are the best, you are the chosen one, and then you're not. All right? And you can't trust these individuals because they don't really care for you the way that you may have hoped. They only, if they do care about you, it's because you have that title as the chosen one. You are part of the prophecy. And my reasoning for relatability to this is that I've had my head filled with bullshit for years. I have been patronized. I have been told the things that people thought I wanted to hear, but not what I needed to hear. People saying, like, constantly, oh, you're great, you're this, you're that. And you acquire an ego when you hear those sort of things. You get an ego and you think you're untouchable. And then when things don't go smoothly, when people challenge this ideology that's been imprinted and beaten into your head that you are flawless, you start to act up. You erupt. And again, I have no intention of killing younglings, okay? I need to be very, very clear that is not on my radar of things to do. But deep down, I've been built up by a lot of people, and they've eventually let me down. Or maybe I let them down. I don't know. But what I'm getting at is this gassing up of people and then eventually bringing them down. I dealt with it a lot in wrestling. All right. It sucked. Like, people gassed me up. They hyped me up. And when things weren't, like, when promotion stopped booking me, stopped using me, it hurt my ego. And I reacted as any young kid would. All right. This is the story of Anakin Skywalker. All right. This is essentially from a psychological, just relatability factor. That is the story. Fluffed up, built up, cut down hard, and didn't react. He reacted a way that I think many would. If you were surrounded by a bunch of people who low-key didn't like you or didn't trust you. And you become, again, one bad decision away from your whole perspective on the world changing, or the people's perspective on you changing. It's sad that that's the way it is, but that is why I associate with Anakin Skywalker, because I was told I was good. And deep down, I think there's definitely a goodness factor to me, but people take my goodness or my good intentions for weakness, for malice, for other reasons, and twist it, and until we become exactly everything that they thought we would become. I'm rambling a little bit, but all right, everybody, that is the relatable characters list.